Yes, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today we are going to break down every single team's best play from the year, or in my opinion, what I think their best play is, whether it's because it's a phenomenal play, or whether it had some storylines behind it, or whether it had a player that someone could look for in the future that might spruce up their club, and to give the hope to the fans that need it for some of those bottom clubs potentially. So we're going to go through every single team in alphabetical order, and we're starting with Adelaide, and this comes from their round 21 clash with Hawthorn. I just want you to watch the work of Isaac Rankin here. So Blake Hardwick, one of the best small defenders in the league, goes straight over to him. And look at the work of Isaac Rankin to find space. Look at the amount of separation Isaac Rankin can create straight away. So look, instantly Hardwick's on the back foot. And then as soon as he does that, look at this massive gap that Adelaide and Isaac Rankin specifically is protecting. So by getting goal side of Hardwick here, he's protecting a massive run through lane. And as soon as he creates just a half metre of separation, as soon as you create that with a bloke like Isaac Rankin, he is going to go forward and he's either going to kick the goal or in this situation, set up a goal. Isaac Rankin gets goal side of Blake Hardwick right now and he's protecting this massive amount of space, the most dangerous space in this forward 50 stoppage. And again, look at the ability for him to create confusion, to create body work. So Blake Hardwick goes to goal side now. Really good defending here. But look at the work of Isaac Rankin to get to the other side. So they're just fighting to get to that most dangerous space. So it's really quick. It's a tiny little jab step that just puts Blake Hardwick on the back foot. And as soon as he does that, as soon as he gets to this side, he is able to protect this amount of space. So he just puts a little bit of body work on here right now, and bang, he's the one that gets to that dangerous space first, go back and kicks the goal. Now, why do I think that is really important? Why do I think that's such a good play? Well, one, it was probably the difference between Adelaide at their best and Adelaide at their worst, was their ability to score when they went inside forward 50. We saw how different this Adelaide Crows team was in the final series. So that, for me, was the best play that Adelaide had this year. Next up, we've got the grand final winners, the Brisbane Lions. And it's really hard to go past some of the plays they made in the grand final. So that's what we're going to do. The best plays for Brisbane were on the biggest stage. Look at the work here by Dane Zorko in this situation. And the two players I'm going to show about critical contests that essentially won them the game in the style that they wanted to do. So the ability for Will Ashford to put enough pressure on here to just force Connor O'Sullivan to slightly miss this handball to Bailey Smith. But look at the work here from Dane Zorko to leave his man, knowing that if Bailey Smith gets his football and he's able to get this handball over the top, we're right at the end of the third quarter. Geelong are probably going to march down the field because they have such an outnumber over the back, because Zorko has now left Brad Close in this situation. Geelong are going to go up the other end. They're probably going to kick a goal, and suddenly the momentum going into three-quarter time is completely flipped. So Dane Zorko's willingness to leave his man, and then his ability to just win that contest, make a really good decision to not put it on the boot, find Lachie Neale, and not only does he find Lachie Neale, and it's a really good decision, he finds Lachie Neale, and Lachie Neale gets his special moment, his grand final moment, his grand final goal after a ridiculous comeback. And then the next one is all about Harris Andrews, and you can't teach this sort of ability to win a genuine one-on-one. So he's caught so far out of position. I showed this in yesterday's video, but he's caught so far out of position. Shannon Neale, who was a big, strong key forward, who has had a real coming out party towards the end of this year, has the ability to protect the dangerous space in this situation. But Harris Andrews' strength and his guile and his just defensive will and just desire to win a contest one-on-one, he does not get pushed out the way. He doesn't get thrown out the way by a probably bigger man, or at least a stronger man physically, you would think. His ability to hold his space, understand where the drop zone is, and win that contest, that's unbelievable stuff. Brisbane, there you go. Now we get to Carlton, and it's hard to find for some of the more disappointing teams this year, but I think this from Harry Mackay is probably their best play. Harry Mackay, he's able to get a free kick. This is the time of the game when Geelong were really coming back against Carlton. Harry Mackay had a few weeks off. He'd had the concussion issue, the mental health problems, and he comes in with Geelong steaming at them, and he's walking in on goal, and you go, this is your moment, Harry, this is your moment, and he completely shakes it. He completely shanks it. 3 minutes later in this game, look at Harry Mackay's ability to take this contested mark. So he's sort of caught out of position. You're going to see him come right from the side of the screen here. So he's sort of caught out of position, has to make up so much ground in the air, and then the ability to take the mark, the contested mark, and then hold on to it. That is wonderful. But then what makes this play so good is a bloke who had clearly had his issues with his kicking. We just saw him shank one off the side of his boot. His ability to compose himself, to center himself, and to go back in a must-win game. The season was almost on the line at this point for the Blues. And to go back and just nail that straight through the middle, you heard the incredible roar of the Carlton fans. They go on to win the game, probably their best win for the year against the grand finalist Geelong. Unbelievable effort. Now we get to Collingwood, and in a year where they were leading, where they were the ladder leaders for a lot of the season, there's so many moments I could have chosen, but I've gone projecting to the future to find their best player. And I'm going to show you exactly why. So we're going to see the work of Nick Dacos, but mostly I want to look at the midfield setup here. So Jack Crisp's job here, just engage, wrestle. Nick Dacos' job with the tag from Marcus Windhager was actually to vacate this space. So he started here and he's run across the centre circle to this side. Now this play is set up for Beau McCreary as an inside midfielder, as a centre clearance midfielder. And look at his ability to take the space that Nick Dacos has opened, that Jack Crisp has opened, for Beau McCreary to find this space and actually get there, take the space and become a genuine centre bounce, breaking the line sort of midfielder. So again, we're now in the qualifying final. Look at the work of Jack Crisp to just engage with Will Ashcroft. The same here with Nick Dacos. Both of their job is just to engage the opposition here, or in this case, both Ashcroft brothers, just engage their thinking, engage their mind, and allow Beau McCreary to use his speed and his explosion to take up the massive amount of space that Collingwood have created right here. And as soon as he can do that, look, there's two centre bounces that we've seen that Beau McCreary is the hit to based on the work of Nick Dacos and Jack Crisp. And final one, it's almost like a carbon copy. It is Jack Crisp engaging with Will Ashcroft. It is Nick Dacos engaging with Levi Ashcroft, because the centre bounce here is set up to use Beau McCreary's explosion and his speed and his power out of the stoppage. And as soon as they create this hole, it is essentially a carbon copy play with the same players, the same people, and you get the same result. Beau McCreary running, exploding, using his speed out the front of the centre clearance, and Collingwood being able to go deep inside their forward 50. And why do I think this is important? Because we're going to see the decline of Scott Pendlebury. We're going to see the decline of Steele Sidebottom. And I think what they're going to try and do, and what I think they should do, is use Beau McCreary as a genuine midfielder. They need to find their Cozzy Pickett type. They need to find their strike centre bounce midfielder, and someone that then can push forward and go inside forward 50. Now, it was supposed to be Jordan De Goey, but we've seen Jordan De Goey's body not be able to hold up for an entire season. And if they can get that from Beau McCreary on a more regular basis, if they can use him in situations like this on a more regular basis, this will become one of Collingwood's most dangerous players going forward. Okay, now we've got Essendon, and it's, again, for some of these poorer teams, it's hard, especially considering all of the off-field issues that Essendon have. But I do think they've got some bright future young players. Now, I could have gone with Archie Roberts' game. I could have gone with some plays from a player like Liam McMahon, or I could have gone with some of the plays that Nick Martin had at the start of the season. But what I want to go to is the work of Isaac Kako, because I think he's got the chance to have a real impact on this Essendon team. And I just want you to look at this one play that shows why I think he can do that. So the ability for him to be so pressure focused, to have a really defensive mindset in a lot of his games. So his ability to not just stand on the mark, to actually to actively go and put pressure on the North Melbourne defender here, to force the rush kick and to force the miss kick going outside of the North Melbourne defensive 50. But that's not what I really want to focus on, because as soon as Essendon do get this intercept mark, as soon as Essendon want to go back inside their forward 50, look at the work here from Isaac Kako. So he's very closely manned, and he understands as a genuine small forward to not get in the key forward's way here. Don't get in the running, marking, jumpers way here. And his ability to be at the fall of the football, to crumb so beautifully, so well, and to not only crumb, but have this really quick burst of explosion that just gets away from the North Melbourne defenders. That is something that Essendon fans should be excited for. Now we head over to the West and we go to Fremantle, and I want to look at their game against Collingwood and some of the tactical decisions that I thought they made late in the game. So at this time of the year, Collingwood was the hottest team. They were the best team in the league. They were the consensus flag favourites for a lot of people. Look at the work of Fremantle. Look and look at their ball movement here. So we've got a kick out and we get a really good view of the way that Fremantle want to set up. Just the ability for Fremantle to usually, who would set up here for a kick out, to actually set up at the point of the square, which means that Jordan Clark is playing an aggressive kick out here. This is the style of football that Fremantle look their best at. This is the style of football that Craig McRae said Fremantle should play more of, and he got in trouble for it. He got lambasted for it. But this is the style that Fremantle fans want to see, because this is the style that you have to play if you're going to play in and win big finals. So just the subtle shift. If you set up here and you kick to here like Jordan Clark is about to, what you do open up, if you do win this ground ball contest, is the ability to transition through the middle of the ground. And you do that because even though the ball here is slightly going to come to the outside towards the boundary side of this contest, because all of your players have set up through the middle of the ground, now that's where all of your options are. Now that's where all of your players are already set up. So as soon as they do get hands on this football, through Johnson, look, he now can go straight through the middle of the ground because that's where all of the Fremantle players are set up. And as soon as they were able to go through the middle of the ground, this is when they looked their most dangerous. This is when they were able to take Collingwood on. This is when Fremantle looked really, really good. And I just want to see more of it. This is the stuff that Fremantle fans want to see. Be aggressive, be modern, play the game that is going to win you big finals. Now we get to Geelong, the runners-up, I guess you could say. They lost the grand final, got smashed, but that's all right. We can still find a really good player. There's probably plenty of good players to find, but this, I think, is their best play and arguably their most important play for the season, because look at the work here from Paddy Dangerfield, Shannon Neal and Brad Close. I've shown this play before, but I just want you to watch the way that their forward line works together. So Dangerfield is leading across, Shannon Neal is leading up, and Brad Close wants to go back to the goal square. So with Danger going here, if Shannon Neal comes and follows him, they're going to get caught in the same spot leading to the same place. So Danger has precedence because he can't see where Shannon Neal is leading. Shannon Neal can see where Danger is going to lead. So he's the one that's got to create the next option, the better option, to get out of the way, and they work in a really good triangle. So Max Holmes looks up, Dangerfield's coming here, Shannon Neal's coming up, and look at the work of Shannon Neal to just slightly change his direction. So now Dangerfield's coming here, Shannon Neal's going to come over here, and Brad Close is going to replace Shannon Neal. And we go back to the 3 points of the triangle. It is literally the exact same situation where they were. So we're going to see where they end up in about 3-2-1. So now Shannon Neal is here, Dangerfield is here, Brad Close is going down to the goal square. So they've just slightly shifted the positions they are in, but they're still in this really good triangle formation. Now Shannon Neal is looking at Paddy Dangerfield going, where are you going? Where are you going? Well, Dangerfield wants to come back at the football, which means Shannon Neal's got to go back to the goal square, but Shannon Neal can't go where Brad Close is. So Brad Close needs to come up here and follow behind Dangerfield. They work so well in space together, and they create so much space. So Shannon Neal's looking back, Brad Close is going to come here, and Dangerfield's going to come up here. So they are just consistently separating from each other. And as soon as they're able to do that, they never come in contact with each other. They get a really good forward 50 entry and a really good look at goal just from really good forward craft. And when they didn't have that forward craft and the ability to find those options on the weekend against Brisbane in the grand final, their forward line looked just dysfunctional. And now we get to Gold Coast, who not only made their first final series, they won a finals game, and we could go Dave Swallow kicking that famous point. We could go Mac Andrew kicking that goal to win the game, but I think this is the best play that I saw, because it's their best player making the best play in the biggest game they had played in their club's history up until this point. It's against Collingwood, and they were under the pump. They had come out to this massive lead, and Collingwood, as the comeback kings they are, had rallied all the way back. All the pressure in the world was on Gold Coast to hold on to this lead, and one man stepped up in the biggest game on the biggest stage, their best player, their captain, Noah Anderson. So as we spoke about Collingwood, their centre-bound setups are probably the best in the league. So this one here is made for Josh Dacos to get the football coming here. So essentially, the work here is for Nick Dacos to come and cover Sam Flanders and Josh Dacos to run here. Now, what Collingwood want Gold Coast to do here is actually for Noah Anderson to follow Nick Dacos. Because if Nick Dacos can drag Noah Anderson to this side of the contest where Sam Flanders is standing, suddenly it's a 2v1 and Josh Dacos has all of the space in the world on this side of the contest to run forward for Collingwood. What Noah Anderson does is just back himself in. He just completely backs himself in, or maybe he realises what Collingwood were doing, and look at the play that he made. So Nick Dacos comes around, Josh Dacos needs to come over here, but look at the work of Noah Anderson to not get sucked into Nick Dacos and see a massive lane on this side of the contest, which he can not only just run through. Josh Dacos gets lost, doesn't quite get to the fall of the ball of Noah Anderson, and then Anderson's ability to just steamroll away from the Collingwood midfield, get the clean handball out, but not just get the clean handball out, get the 1-2, just steam away from Scotty Penderbury and kick the biggest goal in Suns history up until that point. That is unbelievable. That's a captain's goal. That's the best play Gold Coast had all year. And now GWS's best play for the season. It actually comes in round 1 against Melbourne, where, I'm going to spoil it, Lockie Keith kicks the match-winning goal after spending so long in the league as essentially a cockroach of the league. I say that in the best possible way because you just couldn't get him off the list. But when he came in, he completely did his job. But the build-up to this goal, the build-up play is so phenomenal to watch because Lockie Whitfield completely whiffs this kick. This is a horrific kick coming off the boot. But the ability for Josh Kelly to be clean at ground level in a greasy game, in a wet game, and not only be clean picking up the football, but be clean with his handball out to Darcy Jones here. Now, Darcy Jones under immense pressure. We've got to remember, there's a minute 40 left on the clock. They are down in this game. And Darcy Jones, as a young player, as an inexperienced player, his ability to not only withstand the pressure that he's applied to him, but his willingness and his trust in his teammates to know where they're going to be, to hear where they're going to be, to sum up in the situation, where he's going to get this football is. Look at the blind handball here, just out of the space where he hears their best player, Finn Callaghan, over the back shoulder, and then Finn Callaghan's ability to not only be in the right spot, but to win this critical contest, keep enough of his feet to get a relatively clean handball out. Another clean handball. So we've gone from youth to experience here. And then as soon as we get out to Cal Ward, we go from experience to experience here. Lockie Keith goes back and kicks the goal. GWS kicked this game. But that play is beautiful. And now we get to Hawthorn, where I think their best plays come from one specific player and one specific group in one specific game. And that's their final against Adelaide, where they kick Adelaide out of the finals in straight sets. But it comes from their midfield, and it comes from Jai Newcombe specifically in that first quarter, where he just went bonkers nuts. So the first play we're going to look at here is his ability to create separation here from Sam Berry, to put Sam Berry under so much pressure, just using his strength, just using his aura, I guess you could say, to just draw this free kick. Now, we have to remember, Hawthorn go forward and kick a goal straight away from this. So again, we've got Newcombe v Berry. It is the next centre bounce. Hawthorn just kicked a goal in the first 20 seconds of the game, coming off the back of Jai Newcombe. Now this time, he engages with him, protects the front space, protects the dangerous space, and as soon as his ball goes out to stoppage, his ability to push off Sam Berry, to get him off balance and to create enough space for Newcombe to just run out the front of this stoppage. And again, as soon as they go inside forward 50, they kick another goal. And this might be my favourite one because Connor Nash here tells Warple to go to the other side of the Adelaide Crows midfielder right here because they want to create this leading lane, this running lane for Jai Newcombe. So as soon as we get out of this wide shot, look at the ability for Jai Newcombe to use that leading lane. So Nash is now going to engage with Dan Curtin. Warple's gone to the other side here because he's now protecting this side if James Peatling happens to get this football, which is going to allow Jai Newcombe to be aggressive on the closer side of this contest, the broadcast side of this contest. So as soon as the ball hits the deck, Jai Newcombe knows he can run to this side because Warple is going to protect this side of the contest if James Peatling gets it. Nash is now just pushing Dan Curtin out of the way, and if Nash gets his body between Curtin and the football, that is when Newcombe's going to be able to run straight out the front of this stoppage. And this is so important for Hawthorn because realistically, probably one of the biggest areas for improvement they've got in the off-season, which is why they're going so hard for Zach Merritt, which is why Zach Butters is on their radar for next year, is their midfield lacks a little bit of depth, a little bit of just punch and power. And in this final, Jai Newcombe took the game over in this first quarter, and he was the one that got the ball rolling. He was the one that inspired the rest of the team, and he's the one that got them through to a prelim final. So that is the best play, and it comes from Jai Newcombe. The Melbourne Football Club again had their struggles this year with Christian Petrarca probably leaving, Clayton Oliver's slight decline, Max Gorm's getting older. They need some young superstars. They need a new game plan. With Stephen King coming in, they're going to need a new way to move the football. And if there's one way that Geelong know how to move the football, where Stephen King's coming from, it is their forward handball game. It is their ability to move the football from their back half to their forward half really, really quickly. And if Melbourne can do that, with some young players, get their young superstars into the game like this. So I want us to look at the work of Harvey Langford. So he starts in the defensive 50, and as soon as Carlton Tholstrup gets his football on the boot, they are forced into live play. We're going to take the game on with our forward handball. So forward handball 1, forward handball 2, forward handball 3, forward handball 4. We're just going to see consistent forward handball. So now Langford's got the football. He's already run probably a 60, 70 metre sprint to get his hands on the football, and he doesn't stop there. But this is the style of football. This is the game style that I think Melbourne are going to need to play. It's the forward handball game. It's the aggressive game. It's the aggressive ball use game, because that is what opens up space. And look, Harvey Langford is still running. He's still opening. He's still the one that has lengthened the ground, that has created so much space. And then the ball use going inside forward 50. This is the sort of stuff that as a Melbourne fan you want to see. And it all caps off with their best player, with their next superstar, probably current superstar. It caps off with Cozzy Pickett running into an open goal. And if they can get Langford, and if they can get Pickett, and if they can get Windsor, and if they can get a little bit of this ball movement game going like we just saw there, Melbourne might be ready for a resurgence, but only if they can do that sort of stuff. That's Melbourne's best play. And now we get to the Kangaroos, and realistically, there's not a whole lot to choose from. We could go through Harry Sheezel's record-breaking handball disposal game, whatever you want to call it. We can go through that. We can go through some of the resurgence and some of the surging of their young players. But what I really want to focus on is their ability to learn things from other teams. So when you're looking at North Melbourne, if you're a North Melbourne fan, all you want to see is improvement. You just want to see them somehow changing something from week to week. And the best way to do that is to compare themselves to the same team. So look at the work of Carlton here. So I just want us to look at North Melbourne's defensive profile right now. So they are just one-on-one in absolutely every situation. We are going to see genuine one-on-ones absolutely everywhere here. So you shouldn't find a Carlton player by themselves. But as soon as this ball does get into live play, as soon as this ball does hit the ground, look at the ability for Carlton to spread away from the North Melbourne players. They all get sucked into the contest. And as soon as you allow that, against a team like Carlton, who is not a noted spreader of the football, they're not a noted outside running contest sort of team, outside of the contest, team. You don't get that from Carlton pretty much against anyone. So if you're allowing that against Carlton, where they can get this handball chain going and they can find people not only free on the outside of the contest and through the middle of the ground, but free inside 50 standing by themselves. If you're a North Melbourne fan watching that, you're going, this is horrific. Against the same team, instead of being the ones that get beaten on the spread, look at their ability to beat Carlton on the spread. This is the stuff you want to learn. So again, we've got one-on-ones all around this contest, and the ability for North Melbourne to understand that they're going to win the football, that they're going to get hands on the football and not get sucked into the contest, but actually use the space. Look at all of the North players getting on the move, getting on the run here, getting into the space that you want to be able to use, that you want to be able to create. This is the sort of stuff that as a North Melbourne fan, you want to see. Back in your midfielders to win contests and spread from the contest. Use your speed, use your pace, use your youth. Again here, North Melbourne, one-on-ones absolutely everywhere around this contest. But again, what we're looking at here is the ability for North Melbourne to spread from this contest, to understand when they're going to win the football, and as soon as they do win the football, to get out of the way, to force Carlton to defend a much larger space, to open Carlton up. This is really good. So instead of being the ones that are getting opened up, be the ones that open up the other team. So as soon as they get hands on the football, draw in the players. Hold out your space. Hold out your space. And as soon as you can hold out space and draw in 4 or 5 Carlton players, now you're the ones who are going inside forward 50 with genuine space, with genuine time to make a really good decision. And that's when your forwards are actually in advantageous situations. So North Melbourne, just learn. And if you can learn like that, that's a really good play. Port Adelaide's best play came from the last game. It's Kenny's last game. It is a moment where it's Travis Boak's last game. It's a moment where all of the players could get around a common cause, and that was winning for these two legends of the football club. And the way that you need to win these games against a relatively pretty good opposition in Gold Coast, an opposition who no one expected you to beat, an opposition who had so much to play for, the way that you do that is defensively. So this is probably the only defensive highlight that we are going to see in this entire breakdown right now. So they're up 4 points. So if Gold Coast kick the next goal, probably they're going to win the game. So this sort of stuff is what saves games. This sort of stuff is the stuff that you put on the whiteboard and say, this is what we need going into next week. So look at Darcy Byrne-Jones' ability to chase down this contest. This is stuff that you see from a team in a grand final. This is the sort of effort you see from a team who is fighting for absolutely everything. And when you're able to do this sort of stuff to chase down tackle, to put so much pressure on the opposition that he can't even get boot to ball, that is brilliant. And it's crazy because it didn't happen once. Look at the distance covered here. Look at the distance made up to put your body on the line, to be so defensively minded, to create these sort of turnovers, these sort of tackles. When Gold Coast are coming up, it's just wonderful to watch. The ability for Lachie Jones here to just put so much pressure on Mac Andrew, to, again, close the distance, to put your body on the line, to put your defensive acts on the line for plays like this, where you stop Gold Coast from scoring not once, not twice, but 3 times with genuine defensive efforts. In this sort of game, when it was for Ken, when it was for Boki, that is the best play that Port Adelaide had this year. Richmond's best play came in probably their best win for the season, and that was round 1 against Carlton, when no one gave them a shot. And I mean, nobody gave them a shot, and especially no one gave them a shot when they were down 40 points in the first half. But there are 2 things you want to see if you're a young team that's clearly rebuilding. 1, you want to see growth from your young players, and 2, you want to see genuine belief from your team. You want to see genuine belief that you can do things, that you can win, and you want to mix that with the ability for your young players to show their superstar power, their superstar growth. So 1, the genuine belief here in Tom Lynch that they could get this done, and then the genuine superstar level skill that Sam Lawler showed in this first game that he played. The ability to break tackles, the ability to be clean with ball in hand, to not only get out of the tackle once and get a clean handball off, but the ability to get the next handball and then get another really clean handball off with genuine pressure in front of your face and make the right decision, not just blast the ball on the boot and Richmond go forward and kick a goal. That's wonderful to watch. And one more time, Sam Lawler's going to start here, but what we want to look at is genuine belief and genuine superstar ability. So the belief here from Richmond to put on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 efforts in a row. He's still going. He's tackled 8 blokes at this point, and he's still up on his feet. Sam Lawler has covered all his ground. And again, we're getting another effort, which is just ridiculous belief in your ability to win this game. And then Sam Lawler's ability to hold his space, to know that he doesn't want to get sucked into this contest, because if he gets sucked into this contest, he's not going to be able to get ball to boot. And then Tom Lynch's ability to just get the ball out to the runner, where Sam Lawler started from and now where he is right now, and to kick that goal. This is what you want to see. And Richmond had so many young players come into this side and play a really important role, and you saw some flashes of brilliance, none more than Sam Lawler. But again, genuine belief, genuine superstar qualities, and when you mix them together, you get Richmond's best play for the season. And now we get to St Kilda, and there's really no debate as to what this was going to be. It's obviously Nazai Wangden Miller, and he's in his two Brownlow vote performance. But we're going to see him against the 3 Brownlow vote performance here right now. The most dangerous man on the field is Nazai Wangden Miller. His biggest strength, he's at least his biggest advantage over Zach Viney is his athleticism and his speed and his power and his pace. So Jack Viney, you probably don't want to give him this much space around the centre clearance, especially when they've come back from 50-odd points behind or whatever it was. So if you give him this much space, Jack, you're probably going to get beat on the outside, because as soon as Naz gets any sort of speed, he's already gained 5, 6, 7 metres on you. And as soon as you give a player with his sort of skill, that sort of ability, that sort of ability to use the football on the outside pretty much with no pressure on him, he's going to cut you up. Instead, he finds the right option on the outside of this contest right now to the runner in Mason Wood, who's able to go forward, inside forward 50, and Naz just takes a genuine screamer, goes back and kicks the goal. And then, of course, we know what happens next. Naz, who, again, with the 3-vote man, in the space that the 3-vote man should have probably been defending, considering his man is currently right here, which means if Jack Viney was standing next to his man, he'd probably be standing here, which means when Naz marks his football right here, Jack Viney probably could have gotten to it, but instead, Naz pulls off the incredible, goes back and kicks the game-winning goal, and we get St Kilda's best player, and probably the entire league's best sequence of plays in a game of football this year. But again, still only worth the 2 votes. Now we get to Sydney, who, again, such a disappointing season. But I chose this play for 2 reasons. One, this was the first time we saw Sydney go back to what they were good at. This is when we started to see Sydney take the game on. This is round 17 against Fremantle, and this is when Sydney started to look their best, and they started to challenge teams at the top of the ladder. But 2, the end of this play proves to me why this trade period is so vitally important for Sydney, because they're going to be looking at some key forwards. They're going to be looking at some, hopefully bringing in a key forward like a Charlie Curnow. I know that they're potentially looking at a Jamari Ugle-Hagan. There was some rumours about that, so maybe not, maybe, but they probably should, because the upside is probably worth it. Either way, this play breaks it up both. So Errol Gordon comes back into the side, and his ability to take on the kick through the middle of the ground to Nick Blakey. This is what we saw so much from Sydney last year, but what we didn't see from Sydney for 15 or 16 rounds of this season. But it's not just this kick into the middle of the ground. Watch the work of Errol Gordon and watch the work of Nick Blakey to not only be the ones that kick into the middle of the ground, but be the ones that create the options through the middle of the ground. So Nick Blakey goes, Errol Gordon's going to come to this side of the contest and just go. He gets the football. Nick Blakey could probably get this handball right now, but instead, Errol Gordon goes for the kick, and it doesn't matter because Nick Blakey could probably have gotten that handball as well. But this is what I mean. This is the first time that we saw the Sydney ball movement, and we saw Nick Blakey at his best, and we saw Errol Gordon off half-back line using their ball skills, using their foot skills. And this is when we saw them be able to break through the massive amount of Fremantle defenders essentially setting up in this wall. This is when they could go long to genuine one-on-one. So we've got 2 genuine one-on-ones here. The issue is the Sydney forwards just don't have the ability, or they just did not have the ability to win these contests. Now, they're lucky because Chad Warner gets a hold of the ball free kick and goes forward and kicks the goal. But if you put a Charlie Curnow there, if you put a Jamari Ugle-Hagan at his best and healthy and fit and mentally okay, you get a different result with this sort of ball movement. So for Sydney, it's not necessarily their best play, but I think it's their most important play. And now we get to West Coast, and again, not many plays to sort of hang their hat on, but this I think is their best and their most important because it incorporates a lot of their young players and the modern style game of football, the forward handball, but then their young players showing genuine flashes of being really good young players. So we have first, young player, great handball, out to the second young player, and I'm just going to refer to them as young player, even though it's obviously Brody Hoff and he's an incredible ability, and I think his genuine superstar ability. I think Brady Hoff could be a genuine superstar of this league one day, but his ability to take on the tackle here from Jack Crisp. But again, look at the work here from another West Coast young player and their ability to take the tackle on, but not only take the tackle on, to get on their bike. Both of the players here, and again, another young player. So we're going to see 4, 5, 6 young players in the course of this contest not only create the contest and get out of this massive amount of congestion, but also be the ones that provide all of the options up forward, up the field. The ability to take on the tacklers, to take on the Collingwood pressure here, to provide the options, to just completely outrun the Collingwood midfield, the Collingwood defenders, the Collingwood defensive structure here, to take on tacklers left, right, and centre, to be really strong in these sort of contests. And again, we've gone back to the starting 2 players here for West Coast. Their ability to run forward was really, really good. And then you go inside forward 50, you give your forwards a really good chance to win one-on-one contest, go back and kick the goal. That is West Coast at their best, and that is their young players showing flashes of genuine brilliance. And if they can do that, that is all you ask for as a West Coast fan. And we finally wrap it up with the Western Bulldogs. Now, again, there's a lot of plays to show. Ed Richards had a bunch of highlights. Obviously, the Bond had a really good back end of the year after he came back from injury. So these things we could have probably shown, but I think their most important player going forward is going to be Sam Darcy. And I think his best performance was against arguably his toughest opponent in Alex Pearce earlier in the season. So once Norton turns around and kicks it to Sam Darcy. So we're going to see what looks like a relatively easy contested mark. But what I want us to focus on is the body work. So what we saw in the Harris Andrews clip early on, like very at the start of this video, was his ability to not get pushed in this situation with Shannon Neal. Sam Darcy's ability to protect the drop zone and to protect the dangerous space behind Alex Pearce here is really good forward craft. This is almost the next centre clearance, and now his ability to protect the dangerous space, to know what is the likely kick here. If it comes up and high, he's able to protect this space right now, and he's still got front position to put his big arms up. But if he creates front position here, if there's a quick squib kick coming out of this contest, look at all of the space he has to work with right in front of him. And that's exactly what happens here. We get a just dump kick out here from Ed Richards. His ability to create separation into the dangerous space that he wants to protect, that he wants to use, and then his willingness to just take this contest on to run straight through the middle of this contest, and the ability to be clean with hands, make a really good decision out to Riley Sanders. Riley Sanders goes and kicks the goal. So he's going to beat you in the air. We've seen him take mark, contested mark after contested mark after contested mark against the best defenders in the league. We've seen him be able to do it at ground level. We've seen his ruck craft. He's the most important player for this Western Bulldogs team. And if they can get him right for an entire season, and if they can learn how to use his greatest strengths in the best possible way, we're going to see one of, if not the most unstoppable players that we've seen in a really, really, really long time. But only if they allow him to do these sort of things. And that means you've got to isolate him a lot of the time. And the ball use going inside forward 50 has got to be to his advantage, which I just don't think we saw enough of from the Western Bulldogs. But in these two examples, that is the Western Bulldogs' best play. And it's probably going to be the Western Bulldogs' best play next year. Kick it to his advantage at all times. Now, if you like these sort of videos, if you like this video, please feel free to stick around. We've got so many things to cover, including lots of trade news coming up over the next couple of weeks. We're going to be doing essentially daily videos on why certain trades were made, why certain players were traded to certain teams, all of those sort of things. And I want you to stick around and subscribe. So please do that. Cheers.